This is the original Audi R8. Back in 2003, Audi shocked everyone when they released the R8 concept. At the time, Audi wasn't really known for competing in the sports car market and were really trailing behind Mercedes and BMW in terms of overall competitiveness. But the R8 was on a mission to change all of that. It was a mid-engine sports car built by a manufacturer best known for this thing. And I say thing with the utmost respect, as that thing is quite the thing, but you get the picture. It had a naturally aspirated V8 or a V10 and even a choice of a gated 6-speed manual transmission. Now, I've already driven the first gen V10 Audi R8, but I'm curious to find out if this V8 is the one you really want to get. Alright, so let's talk about this engine. So this is a 4.2 liter naturally aspirated V8 that generates 420 horsepower and 317 pounds-feet of torque. Now, when Audi released the R8, it was directly aimed at the Porsche 911. And 420 horsepower may not seem like much by 2023 standards, but in 2008, when the first model year of the Audi R8 was released, it was plenty, especially considering that the Porsche 911 Carrera S generated 355. Now back to the R8, it is a mid-engine layout. As far as this example, it's equipped with the single automated clutch R-tronic transmission. In 2014, Audi replaced this transmission with a S-tronic double clutch transmission, which is fantastic. I drove it in the V10 version. And of course, it's putting power down to all four wheels via Audi's Quattro all-wheel drive system. Now, some of the performance-related numbers: 0 to 60 in 4.3 seconds and a top speed of 187 miles an hour. Now, given that the first gen R8 is basically 20 years old now, one would think that it looks old. And that couldn't be farther from the truth. This thing still looks as good as it did when it first came out. It's clean, modern, and 100% still looks like an exotic sports car that stands out from the crowd. I actually prefer the looks of the original versus the second generation, as the original has a timeless design that I think is going to look good for a very, very long time. Alright, so now the interior very quickly before we go for a drive. So starting out with the quality and the overall fit in the finish, it's wonderful. This is a 2011 model with 32,000 miles and it's held up very, very nicely. Nothing is falling apart. The leather is in nice condition and it just looks fantastic considering that this is a 10-plus-year-old car. Now, because of the rapid acceleration of tech inside of cars, the stuff in here isn't going to hold up, but it's still very functional. Everything is operated using buttons and dials, which is good. Now, as far as the overall size and comfort, I'm 5'11". I fit in here just fine. I would imagine somebody a couple inches taller than I am will not have any issues either. As far as the comfort level goes, this seat is very, very comfortable. I would imagine this thing would be great to drive on a daily basis. Yes, it's that comfortable. Now, here's a piece of nostalgia for you. The first gen R8 comes with a key. Look at that. You actually have to insert it into the ignition to turn the car on. No push button start here. Now, as far as storage space, you do have some behind the seats here. And according to Audi, you can fit 2 golf bags back there. And of course, you do have a frunk for any additional needs for storage space. Now, let's go ahead and cut it short here. Not too much to go over. Let's go for a drive and see what this V8 R8 is all about. All right, so let's see what this V8 R8 has to offer. Let's go. So let's tap it to the left twice to put us in manual shift mode. Let's do sport mode on and the suspension in its sportiest setting. And there's really only one setting. It's either comfort or sport. Now, the driving position in this R8 is wonderful. It's low slung. It's a very short hood in front of you, or a frunk in front of you, so it's almost like you're riding on the floor. I love the seating position in this car, and the overall cabin feel is wonderful. It's open, it's airy, so it's something that you could drive absolutely on a daily basis. So now, coming onto a straight, let's see what this 420 horsepower V8 has to offer. I'm going to let a little bit of traffic go by. Remember, this is 0 to 60 in 4.3 seconds, and I believe, if I remember correctly, 317 pounds-feet of torque. So let's turn on to our straight here, and keep straight, mash. Oh, wow. Look at that. Oh, the engine note behind you. Oh, that's intoxicating. Wow, that's nice. Downshift, oh, blip downshift, really nice. Oh my God, this engine sounds amazing in the cabin. I don't know if it's coming through in the video here, but man, that sounds really good. Oh, that's a fun sounding V8. Man, the high revving nature of this thing is really, really nice. And it took me by surprise. The first time I drove this thing, obviously before I started recording, I was like, wow, this thing sounds really, really nice. And this is the stock sound. The induction noise is very nice. The overall exhaust tone is nice as well. And of course, my preference are high revving engines, and this thing fits the bill very nicely. The power delivery is amazing. I love revving engines up high, and it's very linear, and the power delivery is really, really nice. I absolutely love the way this thing drives. There's more than enough power, and don't be deterred by the low torque number in the 300s. Of course, when I say low, I mean by relative terms, because everybody is so used to the twin turbo motors now having 400, 500 pounds-feet of torque, and the 317 in this car are more than enough. And I can't get over the exhaust noise. The induction noise is very underrated. Very few people talk about the induction noise, and it sounds really, really good in this car. So now let me tell you, I can't get enough of the exhaust noise and the overall engine note. It sounds fantastic. So now let me tell you a little bit about the rest of this car, and I wanted to touch on the transmission because there's a very, I guess, controversial, I don't know if that's the right word, topic about the transmission, because this is the R-tronic, the single automated clutch, and then there is the S-tronic, which is the double clutch. So the R-tronic transmission is the single clutch automated transmission, and let me tell you what that means. So that means the guts, the actual transmission, is a 6-speed manual, and the clutch is controlled using a hydraulic pump and a computer module. So essentially what that translates to is this car feels like a manual transmission. And hear me out, because you're probably saying, what the hell are you talking about, Andy? There is no 6-speed manual gated shifter, and there is no clutch pedal. So allow me to explain. When you drive a manual transmission, you engage the clutch, you pull the gear lever down or up, depending on what gear you're moving to, you let go of the clutch, and you're in gear. While you're doing all of those things, the momentum of the car, the feel of the car is changing. When you let the clutch in, you go into a neutral state. You're in a decelerating motion. You're no longer moving forward. The momentum of the car is changing. The feel of the car changes. And then when you're in gear, you accelerate again. You're moving forward. And that feeling, that unique feeling of a manual transmission, is exclusively available to a full extent in a manual transmission. Now, the reason why I like this transmission so much is because it feels like a manual, and let me explain how it feels like a manual. when I pull on the pedal or when the car decides to change gear, I could feel it more than a double clutch transmission. The gears changing, the more mechanical feeling is in the single automated clutch transmission like this one. And even more so, an example of it is during the gear change, I have to lift a little bit off of the throttle pedal in order for it to give me a smooth gear shift, much like a manual transmission. So for those reasons, it feels like a manual. In my opinion, this is as close to a manual transmission feeling car as you're going to get in a automatic. And for that reason, I absolutely love the R-tronic transmission. Now, don't get me wrong, when I drove the V8 or the V10 version of the R8, it had the S-tronic, the double clutch, and that is a fantastic transmission as well. Nothing taken away from that. But my opinion of this transmission is not of the popular opinion in that, oh, it sucks or this and that, and very similar to what people think in the E46 M3, a car that I own with a SMG transmission. This feels very much so like the experience the SMG1 and the SMG transmissions delivered, similar to what the E-Gear in Lamborghini delivered, similar to what earlier generations of the Ferrari transmission or F1 Ferrari transmission delivered as well. So do not be deterred by the R-tronic if it's something where you find a clean example and you're like, oh shucks, it has the R-tronic. No, do not be deterred by the R-tronic. If you're like me, you will love the R-tronic transmission and you will enjoy it thoroughly. So some of my overall thoughts on this car: I absolutely love this thing. I think it's a peach of a car for the following reasons. I love the interior cabin feel. I love how it feels like an exotic car. I appreciate all of the power that it has, the linear power delivery, the exhaust note, the high revving nature of the engine. It just right up my alley for driving experiences. Would I like it more if it had a manual transmission? Yes, but again, I just told you how much I like the R-tronic. And the overall feeling of it is very nice. The comfort level is also very good. You can easily drive this on a daily basis. Getting in and out of it is nice for somebody my height. I'm 5'11", and it's just a wonderful car. And the topper to all of that is the price. These clean examples of the V8 with the R-tronic can be had for in the 50s, maybe mid to high 50s, for a really clean example in the 60s. And I personally think that that is a bargain for this type of experience. Now, if you're on the fence for the V8 with the R-tronic, which is probably the least popular and the most economical R8 you can buy, don't be, because this thing is absolutely fantastic. Oh, it's so fun to drive, and it's engaging even with the R-tronic. And again, the value proposition, I think, like, the only thing that comes to mind that would come close to this in this, or relatively close to this price range, is a C8 Corvette. And I don't think you could even buy one of those used for in the 60s anymore, because the market is still very hot for the C8, rightfully so. Some more acceleration here. Oh, the 8,000 RPM, oh my God. Yeah. Oh, this is a, yeah, I like it. I really like it a lot. So let's close it out with some final thoughts. So that's the V8 powered Audi R8. I really like this thing for a couple reasons. First, very simply, it is still absolutely gorgeous. Number two, it is very quick, even by today's standards. I love the way that it delivers power. I love that it's naturally aspirated, and it's a V8. And the additional bonus is that it is a driver's car fast, meaning for me, it's still accessible and dances along the lines of maybe I need a little bit more or too excessive, right in the middle there. Now, what about that question at the outset? V8 or V10. Now, I came in expecting this to be a very easy decision, but after driving the V8, it absolutely is not. But ultimately, it would be hard for me to pass up on the V10. So give me the V10 with a 6-speed manual transmission and I'm happy. But that is ultimately subjective. And personally, I don't think you can go wrong with a V8 naturally aspirated Audi R8. So that's all I've got. If you've got any questions, please make sure you leave me a comment down below or send me a message on Instagram at DriveSteady. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Otherwise, thank you for watching this video. Until next time, drive steady.